One day right after New Year 2020, I was so motivated to make a video that compares the project manager with the Scrum Master. I kept on getting questions from project managers about the differences between project manager and Scrum Master. So I made that video mainly to help project managers who want to be a Scrum Master. But surprisingly, until today, that video has been viewed more than 30,000 times. That is just beyond my expectation. In today's video, folks, let's talk about the elephant in the room. This is not going to be fun for me. I know the whole universe is going to frown upon me for telling the brutal truth in this video. But I have to say it. Do we still need project managers when using Scrum? If you've been following my channel for a while, I think the answer is quite obvious, right? But if you're ready to open up your mind and unlearn, stick around, folks, for my explanation right after this one. So whenever I was in a meeting room and said that the Scrum team does not need a project manager, there's always someone in the room who will be defensive and find a justification why the Scrum team still needs a project manager.
Managing the project will be overwhelming for the team. They're just executors. Just let them write codes. That's what they're paid for. Why would we want them to manage a project? Well, we can't trust the Scrum team to manage the budget. It's too much accountability for them. How can we ensure that we don't go over budget if we put the accountability to manage the budget to the Scrum team? Do you know how much effort it is to manage a project? Don't underestimate this. The amount of details that you need to pay attention to in a project? Do you know how much effort that I need to go through to pass that certification in project management? And now you want the team, the Scrum team, the lowest entity in the company to manage a project? Are you kidding me?
And of course, there are many more justifications that people will say. Now check this out. This is what's interesting about Scrum. Scrum is based on trust. Rather than coming up with justifications that undermine the Scrum team, I prefer leveraging the Scrum team to be more trustworthy with handling the budget. I also prefer mentoring the Scrum team to be more competent with managing the whole product delivery from the start to the end. With trust and empowerment, I know the Scrum team is able to do it because I've seen it happen. A lot of companies out there in another universe misuse Scrum as a micromanagement tool. Some people like using Scrum as a micromanagement tool. It makes them feel like they're in control. But on the flip side, developers hate it when Scrum is used as a micromanagement tool. Scrum believes that you do not need to manage smart people. You inspire them with goals and visions. Rather than managing the Scrum team, you should tickle their imagination and their intelligence. Adding more layers who manage the Scrum team will weaken self-management itself. And it does not encourage the Scrum team to have ownership with the product they're developing. So rather than adding project managers to the Scrum team, I personally prefer removing any obstacles in the way so the Scrum team can be nimble and the value delivery to the customer can be faster. As we have read from Scrum Guide, Scrum is also based on lean thinking. Scrum strives to keep the framework as simple as possible but yet sufficient enough for delivering value to the customers. If the project management activities are seen as overwhelming for the Scrum team, perhaps we should ask ourselves whether those project management activities actually add value for the customer or it's actually just a waste. Rather than adding more project management activities, I prefer making the whole status of the product delivery transparent through automation. And yes, these days, it's doable. The stakeholders and the senior management should be able to look at all of the progress reports on the fly without having to ask it from a certain individual. In today's video, I will also answer Iyapan's question that he left on my YouTube channel about how the project management activities are distributed in the whole Scrum team. Now, rather than telling people, I personally like facilitating this exercise that maps out the project management activities to accountabilities in Scrum, because that way, people in the company know that the Scrum team can do all of the activities that project managers do, and people know that the Scrum team does not need a project manager. So when doing this exercise in a company, I'll start with asking people in the room to come up with lists of activities that the project managers do on several sticky notes. I will then ask them who in the Scrum team are able to do those activities. Alright folks, let's go to our virtual board here. We will map out all of the activities that project managers do and let's see who in the Scrum team can and should do these activities. Okay, let's start with the first activity, tracking progress. So in project management, it's the project manager's job to track the progress of the project. In Scrum, this is split into two. The progress towards the product goal is tracked by the product owner, while the progress within the sprint towards the sprint goal is tracked by the developers. Now folks, there are quite a few videos on YouTube that say tracking the sprint progress is the Scrum Master's responsibility, and I can tell you that is totally wrong. Anything that happens in the sprint is the developer's responsibility. Now, in relation to tracking progress, let's move on to the next activity in project management. That is reporting the progress to the senior management and other stakeholders. In project management, it is the project manager's responsibility to report the whole progress of the project to the stakeholders and the senior management. Now, as the product owner is the one responsible to track progress towards the product goal, in Scrum, it is the product owner's responsibility to report the whole progress towards the product goal to the senior management and also to the stakeholders. As the company's understanding about Scrum improves, the company should move away from getting progress reports from an individual towards getting the progress report by attending the sprint review. Attending the sprint review would cut down excessive activities done by the product owner. Alright folks, now let's move on to the next activity that the project managers do, that is engaging the stakeholders. In Scrum, everyone in the Scrum team can engage the stakeholders. The product owner, the Scrum Master, and even the developers can communicate directly to the stakeholders. In fact, the developers are empowered to get clarification for unclear product backlog items directly to the end user without going through the Scrum Master or the product owner. Now let's move on to the next activity, breaking down the work into small pieces. In project management, the project manager is the one responsible to break down the work items and also create the work breakdown structure, or known as the WBS. The project manager is also the one responsible to define the technical dependencies within the project. In Scrum, breaking and refining the product backlog items is a collaborative effort between the product owner, the Scrum Master, and also the developers. Now, I have already made a video about product backlog refinement on this channel. Go find and watch that video if you haven't already watched it. Now, when it comes to defining the technical dependencies in the product, this is the developer's responsibility because the developers are the one who has the technical expertise. The next activity that project managers do is estimating the work items, both in effort and also in value. So in Scrum, estimation is done collaboratively by the product owner and also the developers. The product owner would estimate the value of each product backlog items, while the developers would estimate the effort to develop those product backlog items and turn it into a usable, releasable increment. Now let's talk about risks. There are two types of risks: business opportunity risk and also technical risk. Now in project management, the project manager would be the one who identifies both the technical risks and also business opportunity risk. In Scrum, we trust the developers as professionals who have the competencies to define the technical risk and also the technical dependencies for the product. We also trust the developers have the capability to define the technical solution for the product. Now in Scrum, business risk identification is done by the product owner. In practice, as a Scrum Master, I like to pair up with the product owner just to challenge their thought process when defining the business risk. Because oftentimes when it comes to identifying business risk, it's also related with experimentation, foreseeing future possibilities, looking at the current market trends. So as a Scrum Master, I'm there to brainstorm and to challenge the product owner's thought process. Now let's move on to the next project management activity, assigning the work to the developers. In project management, in many cases, it is the project manager who assigns the work to the developers. As Scrum is based on self-management, it is the developers themselves who assign the work to themselves. In project management, the project managers are expected to manage the stakeholders' expectations. Now in Scrum, it is the product owner who manages the stakeholders' expectation because it is the product owner who knows the progress towards the product goal and also the ones managing the budget for the product development. Now let's talk about team composition. In project management, oftentimes the team composition is defined by the project manager. In some companies, the team members are given by the line managers or the upper managers. Now in Scrum, the Scrum team composition is defined together by the product owner, the Scrum Master, and also the developers. The product owner is the one who manages the budget for the product development, is the one who comes up with the criteria from the business perspective, and also the salary threshold for each team member. The developers is the one who comes up with technical skill sets and also the traits that they need for the team. Now the Scrum Master do not define the team composition, addition, they are there to facilitate the conversation between the product owner and also the developers. The next project management activity, even though I don't see many project managers do this, is to develop the people in the team, either through training, coaching, and mentoring. In Scrum, this is clear. This is the job of the Scrum Master. All right, now let's talk about the next activity that the project manager is expected to do. That is performance management. Now, based on my personal opinion, performance management is somewhat a blanket term that has different meanings in different companies. Now, from Scrum perspective, performance management means leveraging people to be more awesome at what they do. Now, from that perspective, performance management is the whole Scrum team's responsibility. The product owner is involved in performance management because the product owner is the one who knows which team members delivers more value to the customer. The developers also do performance management. Usually they do this through pair programming, collaborative code review, or even during the retrospectives. While the Scrum Master has an overview about who is self-managed, the process improvement done by the Scrum team, and also the collaboration within the Scrum team. Now, because of this reason, in Scrum, performance appraisal should be a 360-degree review. Sometimes in teams, there's going to be conflicts. In project management, it is the project manager who is responsible to resolve conflict. In Scrum, whenever there are conflicts, we expect the Scrum team members to resolve it themselves. If they have hit the ceiling, the Scrum Master can mediate and facilitate the conflict because, as we have learned from the 8 Scrum Master hats video that I have already made, one of the hats the Scrum Master wears is the facilitator hat. Alright folks, for the next 2 activities, I have slightly enhanced it to be more Scrum oriented, as product goal and sprint goal does not exist in project management. So in project management, the project manager is the one who is responsible for creating the whole project plan and also the project roadmap, and they usually do this using Gantt chart. In Scrum, it is the whole Scrum team's responsibility to create the product goal and also the roadmap towards achieving that product goal. This is done so that the whole Scrum team will have a shared understanding and also shared ownership for the process and also for the product. Besides product goal, the Scrum team also collaborates to create the sprint goal during the sprint planning. Folks, now let's talk about managing the budget. In project management, as we all know, it is the project manager who manages the budget for the project. Now in Scrum, until this point, it should be obvious that it is the product owner who manages the budget for the product development. Now let's talk about managing contracts and also partnerships. In project management, it is the project manager who manages contracts and partnerships either with third-party suppliers or prospective partners. Now in Scrum, it is quite obvious, as the product owner who is entrepreneurial in the Scrum team, they're the ones who manage contracts and also partnerships with third-party suppliers and also prospective partners. Now let's talk about impediments. In project management, the project manager are expected to remove impediments. Scrum Guide mentioned that the Scrum Master caused the removal of the impediments, which means the Scrum Master does not need to remove it, but can have someone else to remove that impediment. We have to remember that the Scrum Master is a leadership position. This is not an administrative or a secretarial position. The Scrum Master is the one who removes organizational or enterprise scale impediments, while the developers are empowered to remove any technical impediments because they are the ones who have the technical expertise. And the last activity on my list here is managing continuous improvement. In many cases, the project managers are expected to manage continuous improvement in the project. Now in Scrum, this is done collaboratively by the whole Scrum team. In Scrum, continuous improvement is not just one person's responsibility. As the one with the budget, the product owner needs to manage which improvements needs to be implemented first. The developers may also come with improvements from technical perspective, and the Scrum Master can also bring in their perspective from a whole corporate structure and also process perspective. So I think in general, those are all of the project management activities mapped out to the accountabilities in Scrum. Yes, of course, there would be more project management activities that we can put on this list. Some companies have more project management activities on their list, while some do not do the activities on the list that I have here. The purpose of this exercise is to show people in the company how all of the project management activities can actually be done by the whole Scrum team rather than just by one person, like the project manager or the program manager or the portfolio manager. I personally believe there aren't any project management activities that can't be done by any of the Scrum team members. The product owner can do it, the Scrum Master can do it, even the developers can do it. Some activities are done collaboratively, Some activities are done only by the developer and the product owner. Some activities are done by the Scrum Master and the product owner. The spirit in Scrum is the whole Scrum team will collaborate and will self-manage to do all of the activities for delivering value to the customer. Now, as you have just seen, most of the project management activities are done by the product owner. And here's what's interesting. Some companies from another universe ended up having product proxies rather than product owners because all of the things that should be managed by the product owner are managed by the project manager. It sounds like a paradox, isn't it? A product owner who does not have ownership with the product. Scrum Master, as you can see on this mapping, is also interesting. In the scope of the whole product development process, the Scrum Master may seem not having much contribution compared to the developers and the product owner. And even when they're involved, they will actually brainstorm, facilitate the discussion between the product owner and the developers, and also challenge the Scrum team's thought process. Unlike popular misbelief, the Scrum Master cannot actually be mapped to project manager because the Scrum Master is the leadership position that has a scope beyond just the Scrum team. As you have watched on my previous video, much of the work the Scrum Master does is about making systemic changes that will improve the whole company's level of agility. And also, as you have read on Scrum Guide, one of those works outside of the Scrum team is advising the senior management how to scale out Scrum throughout the company with minimum level of resistance. Some of the best Scrum Masters I have worked with actually work at the enterprise level and report to the senior management. And because Scrum is about product development rather than project management, the Scrum Master's accountabilities extend beyond just the project lifecycle, because product lifecycle is much longer than project lifecycle. To get the most out of Scrum, start moving away from project perspectives into product perspectives. Go find my video on this channel that explains the differences between project perspective and product perspective if you haven't watched it already. Because Scrum is based on whole team accountability, all of these activities are distributed across the whole Scrum team. And hear me out, the whole Scrum team can do all of these activities. The key is trust. Paradox is expecting the Scrum team to self-manage, but yet still having a project manager to manage them. Well, this has been a long video and it sounds more like a podcast now. I will just end it here, and I hope I get my point across through this video. Thank you for still keeping an open mind until the end of today's video, folks. If you don't like hearing what's been mentioned in this video, I can totally understand that. But let me tell you this, everything that I have just mentioned on this video is based on my personal experience working with several awesome clients. So it can be done if people in the company are open to unlearning. You may feel that when you're unlearning, you will lose everything that you already know. But by unlearning, you will actually gain more than you lose. Now, for those of you who found insights in this video, hopefully after watching today's video, you will create a list of action items to make information in your company more transparent through automation, to remove activities that do not add value for your customers, and most importantly, action items to make your Scrum team more awesome in continuous value delivery. If you liked today's video, folks, you can click that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, folks. I will see you in my next video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Now deliver something amazing to your customers. Bye now.